Hey guys, welcome to another podcast of Volume 11. I'm here with the one and only Mark Lettieri. He's a great guitarist with so much history in his own right that it will be an honor talking to him about the many things we can talk about, both his solo stuff with his quartet and Snarky Puppy and the Fearless Flyers and a bunch of other stuff that you guys might be expecting and not expecting for us to talk about. Mark, it's such an honor having you here. It's a
Man, my pleasure. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Totally, man. Yeah, for sure.
And I want to get started by the different approach you have towards instrumental music and instrumental guitar music, because we expect from guitarists whenever they're going to play instrumental, it'll either be that rock shredder aesthetic or the jazz aesthetic, and you decided to take a more funky instrumental sound to the projects you do, and I find that quite uncommon. Please tell me if I'm being ignorant or not, in the sense of I'm not too aware of other instrumental funk music, but how would you say you go about positioning yourself and being the guitarist with the personality that you have nowadays?
Right on. Yeah, I mean, honestly, man, I'm just a product of the kinds of music that I grew up listening to and that I still like to listen to, which spans everything from rock to jazz to R&B to soul to funk to gospel to, all sorts of things. And I've absorbed it all over the years and take it all in when I'm composing my own stuff. And, I'm not a singer. I'm not a lyricist, really. So that was never really going to be part of the equation, I think, for me. so, so the idea of composing instrumental music was just what I was sort of destined to do, and I think the resulting sound of that music is just a product of what I've always listened to. I mean, I do like like as you said, the more rock based instrumentalist, but then I love jazz and R&B and all that kind of stuff, and maybe artists that are kind of in the middle ground of both of those things. I mean, I think all of my favorite guitar players, probably instrumental or otherwise, have kind of spanned both or several different sonic universes. I guess if we were just to say Jeff Beck as an example, I mean, he's got stuff that's really aggressive rock, and then he's got these beautiful ballads, and then he's got a bunch of funky stuff. So I think I probably took that as a bit of a template, not because I wanted to be that, but it made sense to me because I have a lot of influences, and when I write, they just kind of come out. So, but I understand that the funk groove part is a big part of my sound, and it's always something that's been interesting to me, and honestly, from a practical standpoint, has been a big part of why I am employed as a guitar player, because I have a decent pocket, and decent time feel. So band leaders and producers and things are like, oh, this guy can lock in with a band, let's hire him.
I see.
Yeah.
And would you say that having this different type of influences that you manage to merge into your own sound is something that makes your instrumental music have a different touch to it? Because I'll be honest, I feel like I'll speak for myself. Come on, I'm not gonna say
Sure.
that everyone's
It's your
like
podcast.
this. But man, I'm kind of sick of like shred guitar and like all those too flashy stuff when it comes to instrumental music, because it sounds like everyone has done it, and people are just trying to do something that they were inspired by one or two people artists before. So it's like, come on, like I feel like there's a desire from the public to hear new stuff, and that's why so many of the projects you're in are successful, in my opinion. And because of that, your music has a different touch, similar to other guitarists that I do appreciate, like Nick Johnston and those guys that get a different approach towards harmony or groove or melody, and then it goes out of the box. Would you say that's something that like kind of came naturally from your influences, or did you manage to seek that different kind of sound that you end up having?
I think it's a combination of both. I mean, my goal really is just to make good music. I mean, I'm a guitarist. That's because that's my voice, and I'm an instrumentalist because that's what's comfortable to me. But at the end of the day, I'm a music maker. I'm a songwriter, a composer, an arranger, whatever fancy word you want to use. And I think oftentimes with maybe if we're using guitar instrumental music as as a basis for this conversation. Guitar player, and myself included, I'm not excluding myself from this, but we get caught up in the technique and the playing and I guess to use your word, the flash, right? Which is all great stuff. I don't have a problem with any of that. But I think we as guitar players need to focus on making the best songs we can make. And that's going to be different for every player, right? I mean, the players you listed are all fantastic and we all sound very different, right? But we're all very interested in making just music, good music that people who maybe have never even seen a guitar can listen to and be like, wow, I feel something from this, you know? Yeah. And that might require flash and technique, and it might not. It doesn't really matter the actually what you're physically playing. It matters what you've composed. Yeah. Right? I mean, you know, some of the greatest, I mean, if we're talking about like great instrumental guitar songs, right? I mean, you could think of a song like Sleepwalk, which is a classic tune, right? Very, very simple. Or wow, the name of it is that Link Ray song, Rumble, right? So simple.
Perfect.
So simple, but so amazing, right? And then you have a song like Cliffs of Dover, which is incredibly complicated, but amazing, right? Because the focus was using the skills that you have to make the best music. You know, yeah, I mean, guitar has been played so many different ways and upside down and backwards. And there are plenty of players that are doing things differently and pushing it in new directions and whatever. And that's all great. That's what's going to keep the instrument moving forward and keep people interested in playing it. But really what's setting the foundation each time is the songs, the music, you know?
Yeah.
So I mean, which is, you know, I have influences that are guitar players, but then I have tons of influences from just songwriters, or just artists, singers, band member, whatever, you know? Yeah. So I think that's important, you know, if you're going to do instrumental music, guitar or otherwise, just write cool songs.
Yeah.
Or as best you can, you know?
It'll give you a new perspective on something that people will take the general approach that's too obvious of just listening to the guys of your instrument, right?
Yeah, sure.
And would you say that, for example, it's a humbling process of evolving yourself as a musician, to be humble, you know, to play just what the song asks for? Because were you always the guy that if you had a simple riff to play and that's what you had to play, like quarter notes or half notes, whatever they are, but it's simple, would you always be comfortable like you are today on playing the simple stuff?
Absolutely. I hate working. Give me the easy part. No, I mean, like I said before, like, you know, I'm a songwriter first, so I like to play what the song needs. And if that's, like you said, a very simple power chord progression or an eighth note, this or you know, whatever. I mean, that's totally fine because I like the finished product to sound great and sound good and be a nice composition. I mean, heck, today after we're done with our interview, I have to produce a little song for like a country folk singer from here in town, and I'm playing acoustic baritone guitar, just strumming the whole time.
I see.
You know, it's going to sound, hopefully if I do it right, it's going to sound really cool, but it's not going to be technically flashy or anything like that. It's a very simple, you know, 4 or 5 chord folk song, and that's going to be it. And I enjoy that. I love that because if I can listen back and be like, this sounds great, even if it's simple, that's great, you know? So I do take that approach in my own music as well. I mean, I sort of have the room to maybe make things more complicated if I want to. But even if it's, you know, you have to find the fine line of is this still musical or is just complicated for the sake of being complicated? But as I was saying earlier, you know, being funky, for example, or groovy or whatever is the reason why I'm employed. When I say that is I do a lot of sessions for people, a lot of recordings, either in studio or here at the home studio, where my job is to play tasteful rhythm guitar for 5.5 minutes.
Yep.
and come up with multiple parts that just work for the song. And maybe they want me to take a guitar solo, but a lot of times they don't. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm totally comfortable playing easy stuff. I prefer it, actually.
It's so cool being the guy that if you're asked for, you can do such like much more because you've prepared your whole life for it, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think what it is, man, is like I'd ever want to be in a musical situation where I'm unable to accomplish what I'm being asked to do. And if that's something really complicated, I want to be able to do that. If it's something very simple, I want to be able to do that too. So, it's good to be well-rounded if you want to be.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's the whole other part of the question is like, you do whatever you want.
Yeah.
It's up to you.
Yeah.
You figure out how to make a living. That's the other, but you play how you want to play. It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah. And I like the fact that you said that if you want to be part, because your identity is more towards being the well-rounded, versatile guy. But someone that might just love blues, there's no problem.
Yeah, just play blues.
Just play blues, exactly.
Just play progressive death metal. I don't care. Play what makes you happy. Yep. You just have to figure out a way to make it sustainable, really.
Yep. Just so it doesn't sound like we're trying to make like a cake recipe and say, oh, the good guitarist is the one that is able to do X, Y, and Z. But
no.
Yeah.
That's just being versatile is interesting to me. Like I like that.
Is it like a part of your personality, I'd imagine?
Yeah, I guess. I mean,
of liking different things, because for example, maybe
sure.
the
I
usual
can hang out with
person
all different
would.
kinds of people.
Yep. And have different interests in life and things like that.
I've always been
hobbies.
a bit of a social butterfly, I suppose. So maybe it crosses over into my music and stuff. But
Yep.
But yeah, I wasn't really on purpose. It's just my tastes change, and I have to sort of follow those, and that's okay,
I'd imagine that the versatility that you have is what took you to doing collaborations with all different kind of artists, from Erykah Badu to Tori Kelly to 50 Cent and Dave Chappelle. So like so many names from so many different situations, which is like uncommon. So are there different expectations when you go to these kind of really out there gigs, which might be out of your normal comfort zone, or because you're so used to it, your comfort zone will be regardless of who's on the other side?
Well, yeah, I mean, I do have a very wide comfort zone, and that's just based on experience, I mean, when I was 19, 20, 21 and really kind of starting to start a career as a guitar player, I did every possible gig I could do. I mean, and this was everything from playing in a country rock band to doing hip hop to doing soul to doing gospel to having my own, hard rock project with a singer, etc. So, I mean, I've done everything because I like to do it, and, a lot of these situations maybe was sort of like as a former track coach told me, fake it till you make it, which is you just sort of like say yes and then figure out how to do it before 10 p.m. on Friday, and kind of learn, sort of becoming convincing and learning on the job, so to speak. I mean, don't get yourself in situations where you totally can't hang, but but a little bit of that is okay. And so, I've just been in so many different musical situations by choice it's comfortable now. And to be honest, man, it's not that uncommon. I think as guitar players or fans of guitar, I think the concept of the session player or the freelance guitar player is still kind of unknown to a lot of people. Because
could you expand on that? Like, what do you mean?
Yeah, sure.
Unknown?
So, I guess in parlance, you could just call it a working guitar player. Guys who are in the scene, in the industry, doing lots of different kinds of gigs with lots of different kinds of artists and bands.
Yep.
And they're very versatile. There's loads of us out there. I think it's just, if you're tuned into the guitar community, maybe you only know of the quote unquote famous guitar players who probably have a very specific sound and style, and that's great. And we respect all that, but there's loads of just working guitar players that can do what I do, at a very high level, in varying degrees of types of music and all that kind of stuff. So for me, coming up, making a career, that was commonplace. There were several guitar players that were doing exactly what I was doing. We would play a hip hop gig, and then we would play a country gig, and then we would play a wedding gig, and then we would play a, solo acoustic gig behind a folk singer or something, whatever. We just did everything. because we just wanted to work. You know, I had to pay rent. I know that sounds kind of funny, but it's true.
Yeah,
it was
it's
like
what builds you up.
Yeah, it's like at 20 years old or 21, whenever I graduated college, I wanted to be a working guitar player, and to me that meant, well, I need to pay my bills by playing the guitar, and this one band's not paying all the bills. Neither is this one, or that one, or this one. But if I put them all together, I can cover. I can make a living.
Yeah.
And it involved being diverse for me. That's how it happened.
Yeah, that sounds so awesome. And because you're the session guy, the hired gun, I'd imagine you're much more valued for the ear you have for what you're supposed to be doing, rather than the technique of being like 100% the best guitarist, technically speaking.
Sure.
On that. Like, does that sound about right?
Well, yeah. I mean, you're going to get called because you do the job,
Yeah.
and whatever that job requires. Like when I was playing with Erykah Badu, for example, obviously I wasn't shredding and taking big guitar solo. I think I got one solo, and it was like unaccompanied, basically.
Oh.
Well, kind of. I mean, it was not really, but it wasn't like it definitely wasn't a rock guitar solo.
I see.
Sort of like an R&B kind of soul thing. But
of course.
But I was called to do that gig, and sort of morph myself into that style and sound, which is something that's comfortable for me. And then you have a band like Snarky Puppy or something, for example, where everyone in that band is capable of doing a lot of things, and you have to be ready to change something on a dime, because that's just kind of how the music works. So, and I think going forward, like, there's a lot that I can do, and there's a lot that I can't do. No guitar player, I don't care who you say it is, can do everything.
Yep.
I know they're well, he's the most versatile. No, he's not. And the reason is, every style has a nuance that you can get close to, but you're never going to be as nuanced as the people that only do that.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So when you choose to have versatility, you need to kind of understand that you can get close to mastering a lot of things, but you're never going to master everything. And for me, that's okay, because now I just kind of, I still do sessions and stuff like that, but my focus is my own music. And so now I'm able to kind of take all those things that I've dabbled in and focus them into what I think my sound is. And I think people still want to hire me because of that, maybe. I don't know. So
sometimes the fact that you've been in many places is one of the factors that people are interested in hiring you, right? It's like, sure, we can get the best guy in the specific genre we're doing, but many bands are not about a specific genre. They're more about, what would you say about that?
Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was going to say, lately I've been asked to do a lot of like guest solo spots on people's records, and the interesting thing is that a lot of it is like heavy progressive metal rock, which
Wow.
I don't consider myself that kind of player. I mean, we know who those players are, right?
Yep.
They do that thing very, very well. But I think these people call me because I can do it, but it also sounds like I'm coming from a different place.
Yes.
Right? And I think maybe some people dig that. They dig that it's not totally correct.
Yep.
So to speak. They like an outside approach. Just like if I get called to play on a country record or something. Like, I have decent country chops, but I think they call me because it sort of sounds more like Mark Lettieri playing country rather than like, a real country guitar player.
Yep.
Yeah. So.
That sounds so awesome, because how about you? Like, my favorite artists are the one that I can't necessarily put them into a specific box of.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, you're looking at my studio. There's like 3 pictures of Prince in here, who
awesome.
Obviously I'm not about to sing and dance and do the splits and do all those other things that.
Oh, come on, dude. But that's why we're doing the interview for.
Yeah, right. But in terms of just like being diverse and just making sounds because that's what he was feeling that particular day, I think is so inspiring. The sound of Prince is a ton of different things, and that's why it's great. So I like that kind of diversity.
Yeah. I want to jump into a little bit of the nitty gritty of Snarky Puppy because so many people know you from that, and it's such an awesome project. That how would you explain, like in your own words, because it has been explained before, but I also want to get to know how you feel about it, of the rotating feature of the members, band members, because that is so uncommon. Or if it happens in other bands, it might be just because sometimes we get that drummer instead of that one, but they're coming back and forth because of their touring schedule and things like that. But no, Snarky Puppy is like a rotating band, right? And for you, how does that work?
Well, it didn't start out as a rotating band. Basically, the reason why it got so big, the short story, is that we just had more gigs than we had band members to do the gigs.
Perfect.
So Michael League, the bass player, band leader, he was really wanting the band to work, and he was booking a lot of shows. Or in the early days, this was maybe 2007, 8, 9, something like that, which is when I started around 2009. Snarky Puppy wasn't anyone's full-time band. Everyone was doing other things. Like I said, we were all diverse, versatile sidemen, et cetera, et cetera. And, Michael would book a gig somewhere, and the other guitar player, maybe it was Bob Lanzetti or Chris McQueen, couldn't do the gig because they had a wedding to play. That was going to pay them $500, and we were all broke. So they're going to take the $500 wedding gig versus the $25 Snarky Puppy gig. And so, I would get called to fill in, and, Mike liked the way that I play. I had a sound that he thought could help the band out, And so that's how I got into the rotation. Same thing with, the drummers and everybody, really. I think there was a core of maybe 7 or 8 guys, and they're all still in the band. But now we have 19 or whatever. Whatever it is. And so that's really
just making a short observation. You'd think people could have moved on, right? In the sense of either finding a different gig that they feel like that's just the gig they want to be in, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, some people have. I mean, it's not the exact same people from the beginning, but it's close.
I see.
Yeah. Other people have kind of come and gone. But everyone really likes doing it, and we believe in the music. Everyone is creatively invested in it. It's done great things for our careers, of course, individually and collectively, obviously. But, what was I going to say? Having the rotating cast is actually kind of nice because it gives people time to do other things. There's a few guys that do every gig, and that's I think by choice. I don't know. You'd have to interview them, but. The rest of us, we are cool with sharing and splitting the load up. And of course we all record together, so everyone gets to play on all the records. But, I like it because I have a solo career and I can pursue that and do, flyers or whatever, whatever other projects. And I think Michael has kind of always championed that. I think he always wanted everyone to do stuff on their own and produce and write and record and tour with other people and whatever. And so that's kind of where it is now. And I think it's pretty healthy. It's complicated, of course, with scheduling, but logistics, but we figure it out.
I see. But once it's done, then it's done, right? Then the show will go on. And
once the plane ticket's bought, what you're.
Yeah, there's no going back.
Right. Exactly.
Would you say, I'd imagine it's the case, that you have to have a really good band leader to create that culture of people that don't have the high ego of wanting to be on all the gigs or feeling bad or feeling jealous? Because music, unfortunately, can be a very competitive industry where not necessarily someone will want to see their competitor, right? I'm using the term that unfortunately a lot of people will see it like that. A lot of people want to see their competitor doing well. So would you say there's a specific culture in the band that makes it work well? It does look like it works?
Yeah, I think so. Hang on, man. I'm going to close my email. That's what's beeping there. I mean, it hasn't all been sunshine and rainbows. I mean, there's definitely been discussions of, who gets to do what gig and how many gigs they get to do. And that's just natural. That's,
and then when it happens, how are you guys able to make it work?
I mean, carefully, delicately, but everyone, I think, understands that the sound of the band is the diversity of the band. I think what's made it so cool is that you do have all these flavors, and that the audience gets to see a different thing every tour, and that's cool. Like everyone understands how important that is to what Snarky Puppy is that kind of diversity of band members, really. You know, and it keeps people coming back, because it's like, oh, the first time they played London, this guy was on drums, but this time it's this guy, so I can't wait to see how it's going to be different, you know. And so I think that's interesting. And, you know, some fans are like, oh man, I came to London and so wasn't on the gig, you know. And that's just part of it. I mean, if you get frustrated about that, you need to follow each individual on social media, because we all tell you where we're playing.
Yeah. Gotcha.
So
Gotcha.
There's no excuse to not know if your favorite trumpeter or whatever is or is not on the gig. So
Yeah, that's cool. Because Snarky Puppy has that specific identity, and then you play on the Fearless Flyers and you have your own quartets. What would you say are the different interpersonal dynamic between the band members, between Snarky Puppy and these other groups you
That's a tough question.
I'm saying it could be as simple as day-to-day stuff of how you'll have to learn how to deal with a band member's specific way of doing stuff that might be different than the others. Like and it could be just funny stories also if you want to.
Oh man. Well, you know, it's what they say about touring, is that it's like 5% music and 95% hanging out.
Yeah.
Right. I'll say that at this point in my career, I'm very blessed to be in musical ensembles with people that I like, and people that I like to hang out with and joke with and, you know, eat dinner with and have a couple beers with, or whatever it is. I mean, these are all good friends. I consider everyone in all of my projects good friends. In Snarky, I'm kind of more of a band member, right? In the Flyers, I'm also a band member, but there's only 4 of us, and we don't play that much. So when we get to hang out, it's really cool. And then in Mark Lettieri Group, we're all really good friends, but I'm kind of like the band leader, right? Because it's my music and I make the records and all that. So I have that responsibility, which, you know, is just part of the gig because I started the thing. So I have to do it, you know. Yep. I can't be the band leader and not lead my own band.
Yeah.
Right. But again, like, even in that group, I've known those guys for years, and we've done tons of other gigs with other people, and, you know, we all know each other's personalities, and I mean, in all these bands, people have met my parents, you know, they've met my wife and daughter, so like it's all very family oriented and community oriented at this point. So yeah, I know I already said it, but I'm very thankful that I get to do this kind of stuff with people that I have great personal relationships with. You know, sometimes I don't like it when they snore in the van or listen to their phones without their earbuds.
Oh, come on.
That's probably my biggest pet peeve.
So,
and I'll be driving, turn on headphones. Yeah.
So thankfully it's stupid stuff like that, right? Like,
it's definitely stupid stuff. Yeah. I mean, that's part of the road. You know, everyone's little tiny quirks maybe get on your nerves for a second, but then you kind of get over it. I mean, thankfully, yeah, I'm not in a situation where there are people with like serious issues, you know.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
Yeah. That sounds so awesome, dude. Let's talk about a little bit about the Flyers. How is it sharing the guitars with Cory Wong, and like the just the level of musicianship that you guys were able to achieve with that project is something so out of this world that you're the versatile guy that is also playing with all those guys that are always on top of their game. So is there a kind of like pressure in terms of performing and things like that?
I mean, sure. You know, it always goes, I think we all probably deal with it. You know, everyone wants to sound good all the time and you know, put forward the best show, and
it doesn't always happen, right?
Stuff.
For whatever reason.
But yeah, of course, there's always mistakes. I mean, you know, but that's kind of the beauty of live music, as far as I'm concerned. You know, is you might crash and burn, but you can do it in a musical way. But yeah,
that sounds so awesome. Holy crap, that should be like the title of the podcast. You can crash and burn, but please do it in a musical way.
Yeah, and even if you do it in a non-musical way, I mean, you can laugh it off. I guess. But everyone's human. We all make mistakes, and but that's by whatever. I welcome it at this point. But it's great playing with Cory, for example, as you mentioned. I mean, because we both have a very funk groove forward sound, different approaches for sure. And so it's really fun to play. I mean, even if I'm playing, standard guitar with him, I mean, it's still an easy conversation for sure. In the Flyers, I'm on baritone, which is another thing. But yeah, I mean, because he has a very specific, identifiable sound, so it's easy to meld with that, and I can kind of go different places around what he's doing, and so it works out. It's a cool thing. We're doing a tour together in like 2 weeks. I was like, oh man, I gotta learn some music. So it's gonna be fun to do that with him every night.
And what would you say special about the baritone being that you're so close to it and it's part of your identity?
Well, I'm glad I stumbled upon it. I mean, it kind of was just a happy accident, really. Just something that I was goofing around with one afternoon, writing some music, and just so happened that the song I was writing was kind of groove based, and I was like, well, I'll try this on a baritone. What the heck? See what it sounds like. And that sort of opened up the door of using that tuning for groove based music.
Yeah. What is it again? I'm not remembering.
Well, I think anything C and below is considered baritone. Most baritones you buy in a store are tuned in B. I tune mine to A, just to go even lower. But B is cool too.
So it'll be an in between of like a bass guitar and an electric guitar, but with a little bit more of the tone of an electric guitar because of how the instrument is built, right?
Exactly. Yep, that's it. And so it's a really fun tool for composing and arranging. It's challenging because I don't solo the same way on a baritone as I would on a standard guitar just because of construction, right? And then, I like to write these big, heavy riffs that are funky and powerful, that lock with the bass or sort of are having a conversation with the bass guitar, So, yeah, I mean, it's definitely been a big part of my musical identity. And to, further your point about being versatile, I mean, I think at this point there are people that are like, wait a minute, that's the same guy that does that also does the baritone stuff. So I suppose I've worked myself into that problematic corner.
But you know what? It's awesome. Like that specific problematic corner is the problematic corner of why I like Steve Lukather and Dan Huff and Michael Thompson and like all those guys that are like Larry Carlton and Robin Ford. That it's like, thank God you guys are like that, because it feels like such an inspiration of the day-to-day guitarist to be someone that does it like the real way. But the real way, what I mean with that is in the sense of like how you're bringing the music from this abstract part of the world to like how it's gonna work in real life, because you're gonna have gigs and then the gigs are gonna ask you that. So it's way less in my opinion, it can be less artistic in the sense that it's like, oh my God, this is like the whole musical image that I have towards me being like Steve Vai. That is my sound. That is the guy that I am at the end of the day, and people know me for that sound, you know? Mm-hmm. But it can be like so much more practical. Like I feel like when maturing on guitar, I just get more inclined to liking those guys, the ones I just cited.
I mean, I respect all of it, I mean, because the thing is, at the end of the day, we're all kind of our own sort of artistic vestibule, so to speak, and however that's gonna come out has probably already been preordained. Yep. You know what I mean? Yep. Steve Vai was going to be Steve Vai, right? Yes. Steve Lukather was going to be Steve Lukather. Larry Carlton was going to be Larry Carlton. George Benson was going to be George Benson. Whoever we're talking about. I think the main thing is whatever it is you sound like, or as many different things as you sound like, as long as you're comfortable and feel like you're artistically satisfied, then you're doing it.
Yep. Like, agreed.
I'm entering a new decade in age, and at this point, I know what I can do. I know what I'm good at. I know what I need to work on. I kind of have an idea of what my sound is, sort of, but it's one of those things where it's like, it's a lot of things. That's just what it is. My sound is a lot of things. So as long as I'm comfortable with that and I'm able to express myself under that umbrella,
Yeah.
it's going to be cool and it's going to be authentic and people are going to dig that. I think that's what we want, you know, as artists, we want, you know, we want people to like us, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, maybe that's people like you because you do one very specific thing in one very specific lane, and then other people, or maybe you know, they like you because you do multiple things. You know, you do baritone, you do guitar fusion or whatever the hell, you know, whatever it is. So, yeah, as long as I am feeling happy with the ability to do multiple things. And honestly, man, it is a struggle sometimes. I'm like, dang, maybe I wish, maybe I should just do this.
I see.
Just so people can figure me out and latch onto something that's just this. But then I'll be like, but I'll be bored. Like, I don't want to do that.
Yep.
You know, I would be putting blinders on, and I can't. That's just not how I am. So.
Yeah. That is so awesome, because I agree with you in the sense that whenever you're being true to yourself and then you're on so many different kind of aesthetics and genres, it feels like people get eager to hear you on what you're gonna sound on that different situation.
Great.
That's where like you being the versatile guy is like you mastered the game. So I'll give you a great example. Whenever I'd research like Guthrie's career, and I'd see that he had played with like DJs and electronic groups, and I'm there like, oh my god, I can't wait to hear how he sounds like in that group.
Cool.
Because he's so not known about that, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. That's awesome.
Yeah, I love that. I just love that, because, for example, I'll give you a situation where it can feel uncomfortable, and I imagine that was how it would happen every once in a while, of you just being dissatisfied with yourself. Would that be a good way of explaining it? Because you're trying to reach different things, and then at the end of the day you have so many different things scattered around your head of things you like to do, that it's hard to like just be comfortable with simply being something more simple, you know? Is that kind of like what you were saying? Because I have felt that before, and I feel like if you try to go to many different styles, you have to have a lot of self-confidence and be sure that that's what you're like, and you're okay. You have to be okay with it, or else you're gonna be on a mental struggle.
Right. Well, I mean, I think you're right. I think, you know, for me, when I put forth a creative idea, there has to be some integrity there on a personal level. Yes. In the sense that I'm doing this because this is the sonic choice and the artistic statement I need to make at this point for me, not for somebody else to think something about it. Yep. Right? You know, case in point, back in 2021 or something, I think it was, 2022, I think it was, I put out an EP, a trio EP called Fly Through It. And it's all live in the studio. Myself, Wes Stevenson, and Jason Thomas just went in there, and I just had these guitar ballads that I had, and I, you know, not because I wanted to make a statement necessarily. It was just like, I want to record these things. Otherwise, they're just going to sit on my phone or my hard drive for no reason, and then what the heck? You know, I have an outlet as an artist, and like you said, people are, oh, what's he going to do next? What is this all about, right? So I put that record, you know, we just did it in an afternoon and put it out, right? And for me, you know, if that's the first album you ever hear of Mark Lettieri, and then you hear, you know, Deep Volume 2, you're not going to think it's the same guitar player, right? And that's fine, because I made both of those records from a place of like, this is what I want to do right now. And this is what needs to be done right now for me to get on to the next thing. Right? If I don't do this little trio guitar EP, I'm going to wish that I did. So I'm just going to do it. You're
not going to be treating yourself well, right? Towards the own desires you yourself have as an artist.
Yeah. And, you know, I mean, I think having the ability to be that diverse, I guess, or whatever is something I'm thankful for. So I don't want to give that up.
Yep.
You know, I don't want to just kind of, I know we've talked about this, but only do one thing. It's just, it isn't, Wouldn't be
in the
fulfilling.
name of being commercial, or in the
Well,
name
that's
of being...
way out the window. I mean,
Yeah.
I
It's
don't
too late for
sing,
that
so
now,
I'll
right?
never be famous. Yeah. That's way out the window. That's not to say that I wouldn't want to, work with a great singer or something like that,
Yep.
or collaborate with pop artists or something. Totally
But-
capable of doing those things. I just.
But be fair to yourself, because you've already won 5 Grammys, so
Well,
that's
Snarky Puppy's won 5 Grammys, yeah. But,
and you're in it, so you're just as much.
We're in a category that they don't put on TV, so nobody knows about.
Okay, fair enough. There's still Grammys.
kidding.
But did any of them feel particularly special? And do these Grammys have a specific meaning for you or your career? How do you look at them?
Well, yeah, they all felt special. I mean, the first one was probably maybe the most special, I guess, if I'm gonna rank the specialness of all of them, just because it was totally unexpected. I mean, it's never expected to get a nomination or win or anything like that, but that one was so far out of the blue. That was pretty very, very special, but they've all been really cool. I mean, I remember the one we won for Royal Albert Hall recording was very special because I remember they announced it during the lockdown. I think we were all like, there was no in-person Grammys, and like everyone had just been through the worst.
Yeah. Yep.
For a musician, right? And so to kind of have that bit of a release or validation or whatever you want to call it was special. I remember that being special, and of course, like on a personal note, getting the nomination for the Deep Baritone 2 was totally unexpected and amazing, but again, that's not why I do that. I don't pick up the guitar every day and think, how am I gonna win a Grammy?
Yeah. But does that kind of validation in any way makes you feel like you're on the right way, or it just makes you feel good in general?
Yeah, it does. No, it does. I mean, I think it does. I think definitely the nomination for the Deep 2 was very validating in that regard. Now, having said that, if it hadn't happened, I wouldn't have maybe felt less validated. I guess it was sort of validation that I wasn't searching for, but it was maybe provided.
I see.
as
So
just
it's
a
good
friendly
regardless, right?
reminder. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, it was
yeah.
sort of just a reminder that you're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
I would still be making Deep Volume 3 and 4, and
Yeah.
I would do all of my records regardless of if there were Grammys or anything like that, because I have to make them.
Yeah. I'd
If
imagine
I don't make them, I would be really bummed.
I'd imagine it's similar to maybe like a fan that makes a very specific deep comment of saying how something you did helped them so much.
Yeah,
So it's
exactly.
the kind of
Like, that
validation
kind of
that like
stuff.
yeah.
Oh, sorry. I mean, that kind of stuff is honestly more fulfilling than an award of some sort, because music is it's a language, right? We're speaking to people with this stuff. So if somebody responds to me about it, that means the world.
Yeah.
We're not in it to win awards. If I wanted to win awards, I would have continued to try to pursue track and field or something, but I wasn't good enough to do that professionally.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's not a sport.
Fair enough.
We're not getting in the guitar and getting in a band so that we can win things.
Yeah. And what I mean with that is, for example, if someone does leave that very heartwarming comment, you're there like, I appreciate so much that someone had that connection, but at the same time, if I had never received that type of comments, I would still have done it for myself and something that I feel.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about playing music and being creative, is it's like you have this internal fire that needs to burn, right?
Yep.
And it sounds like a self-help guru or something, but you know what I'm saying? You make music. It's like I have to do something with this. I have to, at the very least, I have to plug into a guitar amp and point it at a bunch of people and play.
Yes. Or else,
or
why
just
am I
do it in your
doing
bedroom.
this? Yep.
Yeah, or maybe you don't want to play in front of people, and that's totally fine. But you have to do it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there wouldn't be any music if people didn't want to do it.
Yeah. I want to go on to some really like short, funny questions that I imagine you'd also have funny answers.
Okay.
Like, for example, I know you're a sci-fi guy, and I imagine how sci-fi and other arts might have helped with your music. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Well, I love science fiction films. I mean,
Yeah.
some of my favorite movies are like the Terminator series. Well, most of them. 1 and 2. After that, it's debatable.
Okay.
Although I did like the Terminator Salvation I think that one's underrated.
Really?
The one with Christian Bale. Yeah, I don't think that one did that one is actually pretty cool. But anyway, films like The Fifth Element. I mean, I love Star Wars, but I don't know. I've always been sort of captivated by futurism and those sort of imagery that I remember, just being as a kid and seeing space things and thinking it was really cool. So that element, I think, is in a lot of my music somehow.
Because musically, you feel like there's a sound for that as well?
I think so. I think if I can...
What is the sound of space, for example?
Well, it's nothing.
And aliens. Oh, okay, sure. You got me. If you're being literal, come on, dude. Yeah. If you're being literal, sure, you're right. But you got what I mean. What I meant with that.
I mean, it can be anything. I mean, like, there was a song on my latest record called Dragonfly that was sort of loosely inspired by those Dragonfly helicopters from the first remake of Dune, which I just thought were so cool. And I'm not like a big Dune fan. But
mistake number one, by the way. I'll just leave that observation for you.
I know, yeah, casual. So anyway, I went saw the film and I was like, that's what resonated me the most was the design of those vehicles, and I was like, that's really cool. Like I like stuff like that, tech design, and just looking at stuff. There's an artist by the name of Ralph McQuarrie who did a lot of the early storyboard paintings for those early Star Wars films.
Yeah.
Love it. It's all that like late 70s futurism kind of stuff. I love that. I love that era, mid-century modern, late 70s futurism. Like we bought a house that was built in 1977 because it kind of looks like it's kind of funky and angular and futuristic and not really, but to me it is. So that stuff kind of, so that stuff kind of was also the one we could afford at the time, but that's besides the point. So that sort of stuff, permeates into my art, I think, somehow.
Yep. Funny question number 2. Why do you guys play on guitar stands instead of straps with the flyers?
You'll have to ask Jack Stratton from Vulfpeck about that. That was his idea. Because
were there no explanations towards why you should do that?
Not really. No, really? It was just like, this is what we're doing. Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, I think there was an explanation that it was essentially strictly visual. I think he just thought it would look really cool once he found, I don't know where he found the stands on Amazon or whatever it was, but he thought this would look really interesting visually. And that's part of, to credit his ability to do such a great job at what he does with his branding. That was a very wise decision because immediately you see these 3 guitars on stands and a drum set and you go, that's Fearless Flyers. Yeah. Like that will forever be the Fearless Flyers. If this band never makes another record ever again, if you see that image, that's the Fearless Flyers. So that's pretty amazing that he was able to come up with that concept. Now, do I like playing on the stands? Not always.
Okay.
It's a bit restrictive, but I'll do it.
Yep.
I think Joe likes it. I think he does dig it, but I don't know. I'm not totally a fan, but I'm down for the cause. I'm down to do it.
Yep. Funny question number 3. What are the specificities of your PRS Fiore that makes it special for you? What would you say?
Oh, well, I think what makes it special for me is it seems like it is the same thing that makes it special for everybody. It looks like that, people can really get their own sound out of it. It's super flexible. There's, you can do, I think like 11 different pickup combinations and they all sound really good. They're not just, we didn't throw random switches in there just to try to sell you something.
Fair enough.
They're all very applicable sounds. It's a very comfortable guitar. Just a great, super high quality workhorse instrument that I think a lot of people are really gravitated towards, because I built it for the people that are just going to take one guitar to the gig, put it in their car, go to the show, go home. Like awesome. The working musician. That's who that guitar is for.
Yep.
I think.
That sounds awesome. And I think last question. Are there possibly any surprising curiosities that having studying advertising and public relations as well as competing track and field have brought into your life? Because those were your uni years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think with regards to the communications and PR and all that kind of stuff, I'm very aware of how a message needs to be conveyed, even if that's through an email or through a poster or something. I mean, I like design to look good. I like for there to not be spelling mistakes, very obvious kinds of things. And just,
which musicians might be very sloppy about.
I read some things and I'm just like, you guys, please proofread this, and I think it sort of helped me understand crafting a message for a brand,
Awesome.
and that's something that I'm still working on. Like, what is Mark Lettieri? Well, Mark Lettieri is a lot of these things. So,
Yeah.
How can I stay consistent in that kind of messaging, and then with regards to sports, I mean, no tour I've ever been on, and I've been on some really hard tours, grueling, 3 a.m. every day, playing a show, hard. Nothing is as hard as preseason track and field at a Division I university. Nothing.
I'm absolutely sure about that. Yep, I'm absolutely sure about that.
Running for
Though I have
Texas
never
Christian
done track and
University,
field, by the way. I'm so sure of that. I believe you so
telling
much.
Nothing is as hard as maybe Navy SEAL training. But anyway, so I think back to those days, and I'm like, I can handle this.
In a way, like a rite of passage, that once you've done the track and field challenges in your life, then you're up for anything that might come
Maybe
in your
so.
life.
Yeah, I mean, I think it probably gave me a thick skin and a tough spine.
Awesome.
I'm glad I don't have to do it anymore. I'm glad I am long since retired, but I definitely put in the time.
Awesome, man. It was such a pleasure talking to you and doing this interview. Please leave any last message that you'd like for the public to be aware of, either your socials or your future projects. The stage is all yours.
Well, you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook. Tour dates are all at marklettieri.com/tour. But I do stay very active on the socials, so follow me and you'll get all kinds of posts about, with videos and cool stuff. And I got a new record out called Can I Tell You Something, which I'm very, very proud of.
And which
if
is
you're
awesome.
hearing this for the first time and you've never heard me before, get that record because there's a little bit of everything on there for everybody. So there you go.
Yep. Man, it was a pleasure. And for everyone that liked this interview, please subscribe and like and comment the video, do all those stuff so YouTube can like our channel better. And you can be up to date with whatever we're doing here. You can also follow me on Instagram at Vilela Volume 11. I'll leave it down below because whatever, it's in Portuguese. But whatever, still follow me because
I can't spell that.
Vilela and then volume 11. Vilela.
Got it.
Whatever. Yeah, I'll leave both my links and Mark's links on the bio, and I'll see you guys on the next episode of Volume 11. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.